Welcome to the New World Compendium, the Dungeon Crawler Network podcast, and your source of information here in Aeternum, and we are here to talk about it. And we got some news this week. I'm your host Arkhaniir, and I'm joined by two of our amazing co-hosts, Storms and Sivian. How's it going, guys?
Going well. How's it going with you?
Going well.
Going good. That's good to hear. Today, I'm sort of skipping the detailed introductions and things like that, because we got some exciting stuff to talk about after a few weeks of silence from Amazon Game Studios. We actually have the new alpha information, which is happening as we speak. And unfortunately, we are not in it. So, as mentioned before, we didn't know whether if this was going to be an open test like the New World Preview event, or if it was going to be a closed invite-only event. And turns out it is an invite-only event. And the first wave of keys came out at October 20th, and I assume the ones who received those keys are actively playing as we speak. However, it is under NDA. It is a confidential test, so even if we do get keys,
mine.
Yeah, we won't be able to talk about it.
I don't tell you.
I'll send a ticket and make sure they got my email address right.
Yeah, that's it, right?
See, that's what I find strange with Amazon Game Studios, like the sign-up system, because we use our actual Amazon accounts to sign in and sign up for these tests. And I'm thinking, my Amazon account is tied to everything everything I do in real life, my person and things like that. Whereas everything I do in terms of content creation is tied to the Dungeon Crawler Network. So it feels a bit strange to use my Amazon account to do all of this, but I guess it's fine, I suppose. I mean, it's not a case by case invite anyway. It's they have a pool of applications, and at least that's what they say, they pick randomly from that pool, and if the RNG gods favor you enough, you get in with the test.
Or if you're a guy named Bezos, you get in the test.
That probably increases your odds.
Yeah, it probably does.
Jeff.
Yeah, not Bezos. At that point, it's just first name basis. Is
there you
Jeff.
go, right?
Dude, just call him up. Hey, Jeff.
Keys.
Can
I get a key?
Where's all?
Come on, bro.
I wonder if at this point he would even be aware of these things happening. Considering
I'm sure to some extent,
yeah,
right? I'm sure to some extent he probably has somewhat of an idea. Hey, I'm making a game.
Is he a gamer or not? If he's not, I doubt it. He's aware of the game studio. I'm sure he's got reports on are they making money or they're not making money yet, right? There's a line item there. But I tend to, unless he's an actual gamer or he has somebody in his family I don't think he actually knows what's going on.
He's looking at a P&L statement for the studio.
That's about exactly, yeah. He's going to look at his own particular projects, but, and I wouldn't blame him. You can only do so much.
Mm-hmm.
True. All right, so this started with their Twitter account, New World's Twitter account, sharing a spear photo with from in-game, actually, a spear screenshot with the title 6 feet apart. And,
social distancing.
Yeah. A spear is a good way to enforce that. We should be allowed to do that in real life. I would really much like to be able to do that.
Mark just running around, just swinging it around. You're not 6 feet.
Yeah, I was at a government office just today, and it's like people haven't grasped the concept of social distancing. They're like
a
breathing into my neck.
A clothing store?
Government.
Oh, I thought you said a garment office.
No, government office.
He's picking up t-shirts.
Like tax department and stuff like that. So gotcha. and they're breathing down. There are people breathing down my neck. I'm like, this is not okay, even in a non-pandemic situation.
I know.
This is just not
close.
okay. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
a spear.
It's
if you
cool.
talk at me and you can smell your own breath, you're too close. Back up.
So, and like a few hours after that, they announced the new alpha test phase. In an article,
it was interesting they
series
started the
updates.
alpha test so soon before the next preview, right?
Well, see, that's what I'm concerned about. Are we actually going to get because in the article after the New World preview event, they mentioned that there's going to be a new test phase in November, but this is happening late October. So did they move that test earlier? And this is the test we are going to get for this part, like this quarter or this period of time? Or is this just a preliminary alpha, and then we are going to get an open test like the preview event in November, which is what I'm hoping for?
You'd think we'd get an actual beta coming out pretty soon if they're releasing in the spring.
You would think. I mean, it's hard to tell whether, things shifted forward or back, right? Did they just squeeze another test in before they hit the non-NDA? Or did they shift things back and they need to retest things? I don't know.
I mean, look at what they're going through, right? They've added the new weapon, right? Which could be cool. They've added some tree stuff. We can work through the different pieces, but they really have done configuration items.
Sure.
Yeah.
Except for possibly the new AI threat system. That doesn't sound new to me, though. It sounds like they configured the AI.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and we'll cover each one, but to me, it sounds like let's make some configuration changes, call it an alpha so we're still in NDA, and then let's see what comes out of it.
Well, and I'd like to think, the one comment that they have, or the paragraph is, in the spirit of transparency, we're committed to publicity sharing the versions of the alpha, right? So I think that's a good step moving forward, that they're willing to share that info.
Yeah.
So hopefully we do get a lot of those results that they have with this alpha in particular. I hope.
I have a hard time calling this an alpha, though, with that as good as it was the other day.
I know.
It is, New World is in a unique position right now with how finished it is, because it was ready for release, and then changing the direction, and it's now back to alpha again. It's in a unique position of non-feature complete but fully polished alpha / release ready product that is a bit of a, I guess, mess to control within the studio as well.
I'll say it again. It's the most polished alpha I've ever played in my life.
Yeah. I really have a tough time calling it alpha. So,
yeah.
I mean, it is alpha in a sense that it is not feature complete with the things they still want to add after the direction change of the game, but the way it plays and the way it feels and looks, it is definitely a finished product. So they just need to add the features they want to, like the new quests, I don't know, game modes, things like that, which are actually not mentioned in the release notes.
Yeah.
Those are decisions. Those aren't, we ran into a roadblock in our engine, right? This is we want to tweak a couple things before we let this loose on the world.
Yeah.
I guess. I mean, I really don't know how detailed they are going to go with all those extra stuff they plan on adding. Hopefully detailed enough that, the game has a long lifetime value. But
I mean, we hope, right? I mean, that's what you hope for.
Oh, I think it's definitely end up with a long-term game.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's Amazon. It's their first one. They're not going to let this fail. They can't.
Well,
I guess they could.
They could, right? They could say, no, it's like Amazon delivery. We're going to stop, right?
Well, it's like
we're
any other
start
game.
Again.
Right? Yeah. If it's not making the money.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you got to, pop smoke and go.
Yep.
I think they're going to bring in somebody else to run their studio if they're not making money, more than drop it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that could. Right. Yeah, I can see that happening as well.
Let somebody else take the helm for a while.
Yeah, and shuffle the deck chairs on the Titanic and try again.
Right.
So, the fact that they are releasing, even if the test is confidential, like under NDA, the fact that they are releasing the release notes which we are about to go through is really nice, especially first it gives us something to talk about. So from our podcast standpoint of view, it is really nice to be able to talk about them, even if the actual test is under NDA. And secondly, we can talk about them even though we are not in the test, which is also good. But take everything we are going to discuss with a grain of salt, because we are, first of all, the entire test is under NDA, and secondly, we are only going off of the release notes here. So we are going to discuss them, but we don't have hands-on experience on the things that we are going to be discussing in a moment. So do take it with a grain of salt, and do share your thoughts, ideas, feedback as well, because we've been reading all of your YouTube comments, responding to as many of them as we can. We really enjoy getting that feedback and getting that discussion value from you guys, especially on our YouTube. Or if you don't listen to us on our YouTube, you can just send an email to contact@dungeoncrawlernetwork.com, or use the contact form on the website. We really would love to hear more from you, so don't hesitate to share your thoughts with us. That said,
and with that in mind, if you're in the alpha, keep that out.
Yeah.
Don't tell us.
Remember, it's under NDA.
Yes.
If you post NDA information on YouTube, we will probably have to take it down, just so you know. Nothing personal until the NDA is lifted. It is what it is. That's actually, good point. All right, so shall we get into the release notes?
Let's go.
So, as mentioned, we got some combat changes, which, oh my god, I'm so happy about. So, we are getting the spear weapon. This is a new melee weapon offering both long-distance spear damage and some range capabilities. I would love to throw my spear if that is possible. That is always a fan favorite skill for me.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I wish I had it on here, but the spear they had on the, actually I can bring it up. The spear they had on the Twitter, the post they shared, it's beautiful.
Is that the Heaven Splitter?
I don't know if it's actually
spear?
the Heaven Splitter. Okay, I think I failed to bring it up. Okay, there we go. There's a little bit of it is seen. I don't know if it's the Heaven Splitter, because I don't know what that spear is. It is mentioned in the show notes, but not on the post itself. But it is a beautiful spear.
Well, if you have that throwing capability, right, even with the arrows, you could retrieve some of your arrows. I think that's awesome. I'm definitely going to be using a spear a lot.
That's a curious point. If you throw your spear, there's a skill that allows you to throw your spear, does it just drop, or instead do you just send an energy beam type of...
Well, according to this, you're throwing a spear some range. It doesn't tell you whether you have to pick it up or not.
Yeah.
So even with your bow and arrow, right? I mean, there was obviously, velocity and drop to that. Mm-hmm. If you watch where it went, you could run over. Oh yeah, I'm sure a lot of drop for a spear. But you could go over to where that arrow dropped and still pick it up. Mm-hmm. Maybe not all of them, but you could pick
Well, you'd hope with the spear you can too. If there's a legendary spear, you wouldn't want to use it if you lose it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's gone. Used it once.
Hang that one up on the wall. Don't take that one out of the house.
So it says it's going to be scaling primarily from the dexterity, but also benefits from strength, which makes sense to me from a spear feeling. And it's going to come with 2 skill trees. The Zoner skill tree specializes in keeping enemies at a distance and throwing spears from range. Now, bow uses an ammo, which is the arrow, it's an ammo type, and you actually send those off, they decrease every time you use them. With spear, if there's for example, it mentions new quest line for legendary spear Heaven Splitter. As you said, you are not going to be throwing the Heaven Splitter off to your enemy and potentially use it. So are there going to be javelin type ammunition-based spears?
I bet you there'll be 2 types.
I hope.
Yeah,
right. You're jabbing spears and you're throwing spears.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that happening because like throwing spears from range. I mean, some games do have that effect, like they throw the spear instead just an energy beam type thing goes away, and the spear is still in your hand. But I don't know. Yeah, I feel like javelin type ammunition based spears might be more of a thing. I don't know how they're gonna separate that in the skill tree though.
I don't know, but I wonder if they're gonna have like the ground. What do they call it? The attack when you have a spear, and instead of jabbing, if they're running at you, you jab the spear, the back end into the ground, right? You push it into the ground, so they're running forward. They're gonna run into the spear.
Sort of like a phalanx formation type thing, I guess.
Yeah, you use a lot against horses, but you can use it against people too. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the other skill tree is called the Impaler skill tree. So I would actually like to see that. Specializes.
Could you imagine using? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ark.
No, I was just reading the thing. So go ahead.
I was gonna say, could you imagine? Right, because they have collision. Could you imagine getting a bunch of people in a doorway, and having those spears there during one of the battle sieges,
and they all keep pushing each other into the spear.
Yep.
That would
and they keep pushing more into the spear. There you go.
That is awesome.
People screaming over Discord, "Don't push!"
Oh yeah, it adds a whole new level of combat when you have collision.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Which is honestly why I've been really enjoying New World. Like we've been talking about this pre-show as well. That's why I've been enjoying New World's combat, even though it still, in my opinion, needs a lot of work. Which some of it seems like it has been done because the stuff here are things that I really wanted to change. But that like collision-based action combat is something that I've been missing a lot in games. So. I'm really excited about this. So the Impaler skill tree specializes closing the gap and quicker attacks that impart status effects. So I would assume things like slow or stun or I don't know the trap from musket skill line, that bear trap thing, maybe something like that. You know, you stab someone's foot. Jam it into the ground. They can't move.
They can't move. Ow. I got a splinter.
How?
How dare you stab me? New quest line for, again, Legendary Spear, Heaven Splitter. I mean, with a name like this thing better be...
It better be good.
Yeah, it better be OP. I mean, you can't call something Heaven Splitter and it's a splinter instead, so. Alright. This is the change that I'm most excited about.
This is awesome.
Per weapon cooldown. Provides more options in combat and makes weapon selections even more valuable. What this means is, each weapon will now have independent cooldowns, meaning you can use all 3 abilities on your hatchet and then switch to your Warhammer and use all 3 of its abilities.
That's right. That's awesome.
Yes.
That is fantastic.
Thank you.
This is the one change I've been dying for. Like, I've been really hoping this would happen. Even before I got to test the game, and I just knew that the weapon shares were... weapon cooldowns were shared. I was like, that's gonna break the flow. So I'm... This is gonna be so good. Now the combo potential of the game just shoots up intensely. You got at level 30, you get 3 weapons. So you got
9 combos.
Yeah, you got 9 skills that you can just chain back to back, or I don't know, use the defensive skills from sword and shield, and then go in with your hatchet or hammer or whatever. And
that changes PvP completely.
Yes, yes. And they are speeding up the weapon swapping as well, which I'm also super happy about.
That was slow as get out, man. It's like, I still have the musket. Why do I still have the musket?
I don't want to reload. Because I've got to load it before I can
switch. Well, that's stupid. I don't want to use it again.
Yeah, that was annoying. Like, having
to reload it
later. Like,
oh gosh.
I even would like, in an action combat game like this, I even would be happy with an option to drop my weapon to switch even faster. Like in a pinch, I should be able to just like drop the hammer. Don't even holster it back. Just drop it where it is and draw your sword and shield, for example. And then for the rest of the combat, you don't have your hammer. It is on the ground. So it's sort of like a last resort or kill move thing so that you can go back and pick up your hammer back. But I would like that sort of a last resort option as well to swap my weapon even faster. The thing is, though, someone could swoop in and steal the hammer because it's going to be on the ground.
Well, yeah,
sure.
That's part of the challenge, right?
Yeah,
you could lose your hammer.
You drop the Heaven Splitter on the ground, someone swoops in, grabs it, and you're like, oh no. I should have at least thrown it.
Alt F4.
Yeah.
Before the server registers.
I think it's a pretty neat mechanic that they're adding, and I'm so happy they did that. So happy.
Oh yeah, I am already thinking about combos like, just use the gap closer from spear or sword and shield, swap to the hammer, do the like hammer down AoE attack, swap to, I don't know, hatchet or back to sword and shield, do the swirl AoE whirlwind. It's gonna be beautiful. If
take a knee, focus shot with the musket, do that charge with the sword, shield hit.
If it flows as good as it would in theory here, the game will play beautifully. It's gonna be
absolutely.
Combat will be smooth.
So here's a couple changes that, especially this one, I'm sure the community will be split about. You can now dodge roll without stamina after being stuck in multiple consecutive reactions. So it's sort of it will allow us to break that stun lock, even if we don't have stamina to break it, basically. Just allow us to get out of it and engage back.
In other words, they couldn't find a way, I believe, they couldn't find a way to stop all the locking. So they had to give us a way to get out of it.
Yeah, pretty much. It does look like that.
That was it.
But what's that number? Like, what's that multiple consecutive, right?
Yeah,
is it
right.
3? Is it 10?
Yeah.
Well, in ESO, it's like an unlimited. It's like, bam. Well, stop with the whiplash. I'm stuck.
I'm curious what that'll end up being.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, I'm sure it will be up on Reddit by some people being discussed in a day or two. So there's that. But the number definitely plays a thing. Like if it's 3, it's gonna be removing a lot of the stun lock playstyle. But if it's 10, then it's not gonna change much because you'll be dead anyway by the time you get it 10 times.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure they'll learn it somewhere.
Or it might actually change based on the armor type you are wearing. If you're wearing heavy armor, you can dodge roll without stamina within 3 hits. If you're not wearing heavy armor, say it's 5 hits, maybe they will add modifiers like that as well. I don't know.
Not a bad idea.
You guys gotta give me 1 second. I'm gonna step away, but I'll mute my mic, okay?
All right, sure.
All right. Sorry.
Welcome back.
Workshop stools were not made for 20-minute sets.
What's that?
I'm sitting on my workshop stool.
Oh,
not gonna last very much longer. So I'll switch.
Yeah, we just talked about random stuff because I can stitch this back together and post editing since we are not doing this live this week.
All right. Well, we're good.
Yeah. All right. So another change they are adding is abilities interrupted or cancelled before the active frames of the attack will no longer be on cooldown. Basically, you will not have your...
That's good too.
I'm actually... I will have to test this before I decide I like it or not, because I kind of like the consequences of starting like just clicking on a skill and then getting stunned because you're not careful or you made a mistake in timing and you lost that skill. I kind of like that action consequences relation between losing that skill's cooldown. So And now that we will have up to 9 skills individually,
that's a game changer.
Yeah, it is. So I might like it better if we actually lost the attack, even if it happened before like the active frames of the attack as mentioned here. Because it adds that, okay, I'm about to cast a skill, but am I going to be interrupted? Is my opponent able to stun me faster? Like, you have to think that before wasting your attack. So, I don't know. I'm on the fence about this one until I test. What do you guys think?
Oh, I like
I'm good with it.
Let's find out.
Yeah, I mean, give us an alpha key.
Well, hey, we gotta try this stuff out. You gotta give us a key.
Yeah. We are careful about the NDA. We are in software and gaming. We make a podcast. We could provide good feedback. Amazon, hello.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Jeff,
yeah,
how's it going?
Like Storms and you said, I need to get my hands on this one. But up front, I like it. I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, this is the one of the changes that we don't completely agree upon, I guess. Well, we'll see.
All right.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. We don't. All right.
Well, they were done.
Yeah. Fired. I'm gonna do this solo now.
Solo podcast from now on. You're out of here.
Now, did you guys play the hatchet? Because I didn't.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Because this part of it, this part of the changes, I don't know what it means. Because in all the games I play, I have a tendency to not touch the meta builds. It's the same in ESO. I try to create off-meta builds. And in New World, when I saw that hatchets were quite powerful, I was like, I'm gonna do my best without ever touching a hatchet.
I just grabbed it because it was fun. I didn't even realize it was meta until I already built it up to like level 20. So well, I've got it now, so I'm not going to lose it.
This worked out.
Yeah, well, this worked. But man, some of these changes they're drastic. Because some of this, like Berserker Endurance, that kept me alive. When you're going into to some of this and you just keep swinging, because the more you kill, the more you stay alive. Mm-hmm. You get to a certain point where you can't be killed. It's like for 10 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. Well, now it'll be 2 seconds. It's like, well, wait a minute. What good is 2 seconds? Basically, I hit you, I'm done. It would just, why bother, right?
What was it before? How long was it before?
I thought it was like 10 seconds. Oof. It was a good long time, right?
They reduced it to 10 seconds.
No, that was the Berserk itself.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
The Berserking Endurance has been reduced to 2 seconds. I mean, so it was like, I'd run into like a bucket load of skeletons, whatever you call them, and just the more you find the weaker ones, you kill them because you can take on the heavier ones, right?
Yeah.
And I'm about to get knocked out by the bigger guy, and I turn around and knock off a skeleton so I can hit a berserk. I mean, but no, I can't do that. But it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I didn't run around with a hatchet, just in the starter time.
No, for me it was the hatchet and the musket.
Okay, so I was sword and shield, and life staff, and musket at times.
I'd have life staff just for the quick runs, but other than that, that was about it.
We're getting to that.
I switched around a lot, I think. I didn't do much with fire staff. I just opened it enough to see the skills. My main switched between sword and shield to musket, and sword and shield to hammer, and musket to hammer. Yeah, I basically played with musket, hammer, sword, and shield, I guess. Those were my favorite, basically.
The biggest problem I had with fire staff is... Sorry, go ahead.
No, it was slow, like that weapon combinations that I had. Yeah, what were you saying?
Well, the biggest problem I had with fire staff is you'd start something, a spell or whatever, and then you're stuck, right?
Yeah.
For like 10 seconds, you're stuck locked there. He's like, well... And I'm getting pounded. I'm like, this isn't doing me any good, right? So unless I'm with somebody else, this is useless.
Yeah, just raining meteors in a random place while people are stabbing you in the legs. It's like,
right.
I can't stop.
So Storms, what are your thoughts on this, on the life staff? They decreased the speed of flight distance by 50% and increased the cooldown by 25 seconds.
You gotta give me a mount. I mean, that was the whole purpose of it. So the life staff is no longer going to be your travel cart, right? It's going to be healing. So they changed the intent to the life staff, which I think their whole intent was it to be healing staff, not their speed travel, right? I think this is they're moving towards, they're going to bring in mounts.
It's a taxi staff. Yeah.
Yeah, right? The only reason I had it was to go faster in between places. And then, honestly, that was it.
I still hear that in my sleep. Whoopo!
Yeah, that's it, right? Woohoo! Woohoo! Yeah, absolutely.
That is a drastic change. That's like decreased by 50% too. It's not like, we just shortened a little
why
bit.
Bother?
Yeah, they basically said use this only to create distance between you and the enemy that you are actively fighting and nothing else. Which I'm actually okay with. But at the same time, I'm lazy, so I kind of liked being able to fly places.
I like the fact that you could fly
20 meters with your first, and then when you hit level 25 with your staff, it was 30. I think that was the cap. I think 30, maybe.
I think it was something like 30. Sure. It was especially useful between, jumping between two high places, so you don't have to rotate around or go down and up again. It was from one cliff to the another.
Exactly, right. And if you missed, you could always just roll and you wouldn't have damage.
Yeah.
Right? So that was fun.
I mean,
I did it once to my death. I thought I was going to make it. Definitely didn't.
Did not make it.
Dropped 100 meters.
Oh, hey, there you go.
Yeah. Backstab adjustments.
I don't think I ever backstabbed someone.
An enemy back. Oh yeah, it's backstab damage bonus. Okay, I like that. I backstabbed a lot, an awful lot.
I really didn't.
Yep. So I do. What was it? The spin attack.
Oh, that was a great one.
Shield to stun him, spin attack, and then backstab. That was like my 3-hit combo, and I loved it.
The thing is, though, this is interesting. Any melee attack that hits an enemy's back now gets backstab damage bonus. So it's not just that sword and shield skill line skill, the backstab, but even if you hit someone in the back of their head with a hammer, they also still get a backstab damage bonus, which I'm kind of happy about because it's gonna add that you stun someone and roll dodge behind them, get up, and start stabbing them or hitting them from behind. And when they turn, just keep doing that dance, the circular dance of trying to get get each other's back so you can, get that sweet backstab damage bonus.
I misread that. So that's any melee attack. Got it. So, I mean, I love that. I think it's, strategic, right? You can have your buddy be the tank. You can come up behind.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting.
Bonus.
That'll be very interesting.
Yeah. Also, backstabs no longer cause knockdowns, so they're balancing it in that way at least. So, you can't just stun lock someone from the back and get 1.3 times damage bonus.
Yeah, and they really got to make sure that stun lock works correctly, because that, to me, is not a rage quit situation, but close, right? When you get into a group fight and you're lock, well, wait a minute. What am I doing here, right? I can't even move, right?
Yeah.
The other day, just playing ESO, I got locked by a group and it's just I honestly couldn't move. I just quit. I'm done. There's nothing I can do. It's that's crazy. You got to be able to unbreak it somehow. But
I actually, in terms of breaking stun lock, it's a completely irrelevant game, but Mortal Kombat's style of breaking stun locks, which uses not stamina but the special power energy type thing, that you can either save up for a big attack, or you can waste, I think, 1/3 of it to just do this animation, and it breaks your stun lock, slightly pushes back your enemy. Something that allow me to, I don't know, waste half my stamina in a single breakout attack, like in ESO, basically. I don't know why I gave an example from Mortal Kombat. I mean, ESO has it, and it's an MMORPG.
I liked it.
My brain went to Mortal Kombat for some reason. But yeah, these are all, in my opinion, the combat changes are in a good direction.
Yeah,
I agree.
Also, one more thing, I wanted to mention this before, but I forgot. So we are getting Spear. What weapon would you guys want to see? What weapon or magic style, whatever? Like, what other thing?
Grenade launcher.
I mean, that would be one thing.
Honestly,
you could say the fire staff kind of be. It's not really.
Well, if they open some of that to be instant cast and not continual,
Yeah.
But to me, anyways, I'm usually playing magic as opposed to stamina.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't playing stamina in New World because it just, like I said, it just locked you up. It's like, well, doesn't any good. Yeah. So I would like to see that more than any other weapon. Give me some ability to do instant casting and not be locked up. If I'm doing area effect, why should I be locked in one spot? That doesn't make sense, right? I'm not Moses, my hands being held up in the air. I can move, right? When you cast something, you aren't stuck. So it's focusing. Just, there you go. Just really thinking about it. He's just going to grunt, but I don't know.
And he won't mind being hit.
Right. I mean, stand there,
Yeah.
I really want a spell sword type, either a weapon or, I don't know. I mean, it's not class based, but a skill tree, basically. So you only have a single sword, no shield or no second sword, and it's a mix of magic and stamina, basically. You cast, I don't know, like a flaming sword or things like that. You hit with the sword, but at the same time, you have some magic going on as well. Basically, sort of like a battle mage situation.
So would you?
Yeah.
Would you use one of your abilities for that? Like one of your 3 abilities? So you have like a fire sword or an ice sword ability for that?
I guess maybe, yeah. Like if you use the ice sword ability, it's say a 15-second effect, and it applies slow when you hit people.
Right.
Or another ability is like lightning sword, and it has a 10% chance to stun upon hit, and they have 30 seconds cooldowns, whatever, things like that. Like it could be. I don't know how it would affect the overall combat of the game, obviously, from just like randomly talking about it, but it would really be fun to have a spell sword type of, I cast magic and I fight with a sword, but I can't do both to its maximum type of game style.
So it's sort of like a Stormzlord, right? Depending how you play it.
I guess, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You got to balance the two, right? I've got a Stormzlord who's a werewolf that I balance between the two. I got to balance, don't use too much magic, don't use too much stam, and, depending how you want to play it.
Yeah, pretty much like a hybrid weapon types thing. All right,
I could get down with that.
Yeah, it's one of the things I've, even though I bought whatever the expansion was, where it came with the
Necromancer?
ESO, not Necromancer, the one before that.
Warden, Morrowind expansion.
The Warden. I've had a Warden, I've had that ability for years now, right? But I finally opened one up, and during the Witches Festival, I'm going to go in there and level them up. But I wanted to try that because it seems to me that's another hybrid type support character.
It really works, yeah. The Warden works as Warden's a very versatile class in ESO. That's it definitely can do that.
That type of thing I think is missing. I like that ability when I like games is don't say I have to be a particular class to use a particular weapon. If I want to do something, I want to do it because I want to do it. I just let me figure out what I want to balance it out, right? So I like going in. One thing I like with ESO is I can pick what I want. I could be a mage, but use a sword. I could be a stam, but still use a bit of magic. So it's a balancing it out. Some things like Neverwinter Nights or you're Neverwinter, you're stuck. Yeah. You pick a character and you have to use their weapons. And it's like, well, what if I don't want to, right?
See, I always played a healer, right? And with a life staff, I don't get so the classic World of Warcraft. You're not casting, you're not insta casting anything really, and I don't get that true healer vibe with the life staff.
I think they said that. Yeah,
I kind of like that. I like that aspect where you still have to do PvP and you still have to go out and do things. You can't just sit there and be a healer and be carried by a team. You know what I mean? I like that.
Yeah. One of the things I have to admit is when I started ESO, I picked a healer just so I could tag along into dungeons faster. Right? I mean, eventually I learned how to play, so I got out of that. But that's one of the things I did. It's like, well, the queue is shorter if you're a tank or a healer. Well, okay, I'll be a healer. But again, it's a good thing here is you have to do both. But I'm looking for even though they say they don't have dungeons, so to speak, I'm looking to see what more instance activities they have.
Yeah. That's going to be interesting to see because they did mention they're going to be adding these game modes and things like that into the game. They just didn't mention what sort of game modes they are going to be.
Yeah.
So are they going to be
like
instance? Yeah, like battlegrounds or dungeons, arena modes maybe. Like I would love an arena in this game.
Battlegrounds.
Sorry, Storms, come again?
As long as it's not 50 people battlegrounds. Don't want that.
Well, those are instants though.
Yeah, they are. Well, yes. I mean, they are covered by that dome thing. So
dome-like thing.
All right, housing.
We can count them. Right, yes, housing. Housing will now display the following. Decoration score, number of items you have placed, maximum count on the decoration UI. None of which say anything to me because during the preview event, I did not get a house.
I did buy a house.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I didn't see what a decoration score. I have no couldn't buy any furniture. So I don't know what this means.
I saw a decoration score once, and it reminded me of BDO, where it had, I guess the list of housing and their score.
Based on what?
Yes.
So like my wife plays an Animal Crossing, right? And they do all this scoring of your island based on all this weird random, mumbo jumbo stuff. And I like, what is this going to do the same thing? Are they going to not tell us and just, your score is 5? Why? Well, I'm not going to tell you why. It's just 5.
It's just 5.
I mean,
and that's
for me, housing is different. Like a lot of people really like housing, right? Some people hate housing. I use housing like an ESO specifically for storage when I can, when I have the right trunks. And then if there's contests, I like to enter, housing contests.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's it. And I mean, I'm not buying, I have the Earth-Torn Cavern or whatever it is, and it's just full of stuff because I have nowhere else to put it, right?
So
I just saw this furniture.
If I recall correctly, there was something about housing that if you put a specific trophy or specific item up, that it gave you a buff against that
would be
animal
neat.
Or that faction, maybe. I want to say there was something that I read about that.
I remember something like that. I can't tell if I remember it from Ashes of Creation's housing or New World's housing. The information is mixed in my brain right now.
So we know New World's instance, right? So we know that's instance housing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see how that works.
Same as ESO, I believe. Like everyone will buy the same house. So
yeah, it's all instance, right? It's all, you can't just build. One of the things I liked about other survival games like Ark or Atlas or even Conan, you can build where you want, right? It's just, you got to find a place to build. Instance is okay because then you can always get the right house if you want to. But I like the fact of being able to build wherever you want as well.
So I just looked it up. One of the rewards for housing is obviously your recall point, right? And you can put magical decorations that give your character buffs when they are placed on display in your house. These trophies can do things like give you an advantage in combat against a particular enemy type or improve your crafting abilities.
Oh, sweet.
Right.
However, each house can only have so many trophies on display at any time. So you need to consider which advantages you want to have on your adventures. I like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like having real gameplay effect to housing is actually that's really nice. I like that.
That's a pretty cool aspect.
Mm-hmm. So I guess decoration score will probably affect how much you get from those buffs. I would say something like that.
I would imagine it's probably on the tier of products that you have and how many products you have in your house. I don't think it really means anything. I don't know.
I guess. Maybe it's just to show off, like, hey, my decoration score is 7,000. Sure.
Yeah.
And
I guarantee we're going to have a couple members in the guild that will focus on the decoration score.
And some people do. That's great.
Yeah. And that's
it depends how versatile the decoration. If it's like ESO's decoration where I can do a bunch of things and completely creatively, I will spend my days in housing. But if it's just, this is trophy slot 1, this is trophy slot 2, this is chair slot, this is table slot.
Right.
This is if it's fixed, I probably won't even, I will just do just enough to get my benefits, like gameplay buffs from it, but I won't bother creatively. But
exactly. Just enough to get the benefits and move on, right? So it depends how they do it. Like some of the stuff they've added to... Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, Storms.
No, some of the stuff they've added to ESO housing makes it even better. Now I'm looking for housing to other games to be just as good. Right? Like pathing of your house guests and all this. This is tremendous stuff they've added. And I'm like, okay, you guys got to up your game for housing in other games to match this.
So I want to say it's going to be where you can put it wherever you want. Because I was in the same house. I think 3 people own the one house that I went into, right? Because it's instant space. And there was stuff in different places of the same item, right? So there was a chest when you walked up the stairs. It was right there in the one house. The next house, it was a table with a light on it or a candle or something. So I think
I will spend a lot of time.
Yes. And that reminded is, and I think what I remember, if I remember correctly, it reminded me of like Star Wars Galaxies, right? Where you could decorate to the nines.
Oh, yeah.
If that was your thing.
Well, like right now, for the Halloween contest, I decided, just because I have nothing else to do, to take the enchanted snow globe and make it the haunted house. So it's completely different than anybody's ever seen it, right? That's what I enjoy about housing. I can put anything where I want, change it, can change the color just by putting lights inside stuff. Things like that, it's phenomenal. So like they really have to step their game up for this housing to be good.
Yeah,
I think housing would be fun.
ESO set a whole new bar when it comes to housing in games because, I mean, Storms, you used game engines as well. Like Elder Scrolls Online's housing editor to me is better than a lot of 3D game engines themselves. Like I can't create stuff in Unity 3D when I'm building a scene as good and as fast as I create a scene or a full house that I do in Elder Scrolls Online, which is a game.
That's right.
Like,
they've done very well. They really have.
So
and I'm expecting more from housing here.
Lot to work up to Amazon Game Studios. It's. I wish I got a house during the preview event. I was so busy trying to see everywhere. I didn't level a single town enough to be able to buy a house in it. I just had a bunch of different towns leveled up to a mediocre point that I didn't get to do anything with them.
I got one the very last day. Right, just so I could say I got one, right? I'm like, I'm going to get this. I was out there culling all these wolves and everything I could do. Just get points, just to get to a house.
Yeah, and the preview event coincided with just when I was quitting my job as well, so I didn't get to play as much as I wanted to. Now, if we get another preview event, I can do like, God knows how long game time stream things. I plan on doing like a bunch of 24-hour streams and whatnot as well, just like immerse myself into it with a couple liters of coffee next to me.
This is going to have a really tough time where I am with between trying to play IC every night or every other night and then play New World. Because I definitely prefer the way New World is going. So it's going to be tough. I mean, honestly. Because we've been hitting, I'm back into, so I took a little time off. I'm back into it and just hitting IC all the time. Or Serial, one of the two. But New World definitely just got to step up. Just in what I've seen. So see how it works out.
I think during the test phases, I will only play New World because, it's a limited time. I gotta get in as much as game time. Like, I want to see as much of it as I can. Once New World releases, I will probably play like 80% New World, 20% ESO just to do events and stuff like that until I get in New World to a point that my account is like full, I'm max level, I got my items. I can just get in and play the game, whatever activity I want to do, and don't spend hours grinding for better stuff and things like that. Until that point, I think I will play New World heavily, and then probably just become 50-50 again between ESO and New World, depending on what community activity we are doing on the given day.
Interesting with being that it's Amazon, right? To me, whether or not they're going to have experience buffs for sale, whether they're going to have, things like that to bring in more cash. And for those who, like myself, I don't have a whole lot of time. I mean, okay, yes, and maybe 2 hours a night, but still that seems like a lot of time. But this is what I have, right? Yeah. I have to divide what I have. If I've got other stuff going on, I need a fast way to level, right?
You don't want to get left
I don't
behind.
have time to grind. So when, like, for BDO and for Guild Wars 2 and for actually DC Online, I ponied up some money for some level experience so I can go faster. Yeah. Because I wanted to get experience that level, but I didn't have time to grind it. I had spent years grinding ESO, right? So, and this is why I can't do that again. I just, I had to pick and choose.
Yeah.
So I want to see how Amazon's going to handle that. Whether people are going to get upset by some of these experience buffs, character level buffs, things like that. ESO, when they first started, didn't do that. But now you can, like, if one character has finished all the skill shards, you can buy them for the other ones.
Yeah.
Right? Which to me is cool. Because if I'm starting this Warden, I don't want to go to all these skill shards again. Because I did that once. I know where they are, right? I mean, I'll do the IC ones, but I don't need to do all of them. So I'll buy those. And that's just me. My son, 26, got a kid. He's got no money. He's going to be grinding it, right? That's just, this is what he has got to do, right? But I was there too. So you got to figure these things out.
Also, I'm okay with, like, selling and, I don't know, experience scroll, right? Like, because it is what it is. Some people work and hence they have money, but because they work, they don't have the time. And then some people, like me at the moment, don't work, don't have the money, but have a lot of time in their hands. So I will sit down and grind, like, as I said, the 24 hours a day. I can do it I can afford to do it at the moment. But if I was still in my previous job, there were times we would work until like midnight, 3-4 days in a row during crunch weeks. And like, when am I gonna catch up with my guild? I'm just gonna pay it for the experience scroll and play over the weekend if you are not working, get the weekend as well, and catch up as much as I can. So experience scrolls, I don't mind much. Hopefully they go with the same route. If they add experience scrolls, they also add craftable versions of it, like Elder Scrolls Online. Now that would be lovely. I love that ESO
like
is doing that.
To sell in-game? To sell in-game?
Yeah, in Elder Scrolls Online, you can craft experience potions.
I did not know that.
Yeah, or you can buy experience scrolls from the Crown Store, which is like the real money gem store.
Yes.
And they give a bunch with daily rewards anyway. My inventory is filled with experience scrolls. It's insane.
And the Witches Festival coming up, you're going to get double XP.
Yeah.
So if you're going to level somebody, do it during an event.
Honestly, leveling in ESO is super easy right now. It's just, you always have something like a 250 10% bonus going from something in the game.
I mean, so like New World, I'm looking forward to their events. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do and what they're going to say for holidays and holidays. Because to me, that's another interesting part of all these different MMOs and different types of games is how they tie it to the real world events.
True.
Right? Yeah. What game? Oh, it was Ashes. Gave something out for going through the pandemic this last year. Right? They gave some cosmetic, right? I can't remember what it is. I've got it, but they gave it. Right? Interesting to me. It's a tie to the real world.
Yeah.
And that's something like these holiday events, Witches event and the Christmas events or winter solstice events, what do you want to call it, right? Star Trek Online calls it something. But again, you're tying it all together to the real world. So there's a sort of symbiotic relationship between your real world physical activities and holidays and what's going on in game.
Yeah.
I think it's a personal touch is kind of that's pretty cool.
It creates that connection between the player and the game, honestly. I just hope they don't do it like Elder Scrolls Online where there's an event going every other week for... There are more events happening in ESO than times that are no events. It's kind of out of control in my opinion, but that's a discussion for Tales of Tamriel, which is our Elder Scrolls podcast.
It's a different podcast.
In there. Yeah.
Good segue.
We have a whole different podcast about that.
All right, so want to go on to AI?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
We still have not as much, but still a little bit of release notes here. So AI, new threat system, part 1. Adjustments to make enemy targets more understandable and controllable. Introduced a new threat system where a single threat value is calculated per player. Higher threat greatly increases the chance to be selected as the enemy's target. Created logic for how threat is calculated. Currently, damage and threat perks are the main determined, but expect specific attacks to add remove threat in the future. Note, healing does yet affect threat generation. This will change for life staff users soon. So, aggro, basically.
Does not,
right?
I'm assuming they missed the word not.
Yeah, not yet affect. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, that is interesting because you can't hold aggro. Right?
Well, I guess now we will be able to. With some skills and whatnot.
If you're putting out more
extent.
damage, right? I mean, maybe, right? It's to see how they play it out.
Like, I would assume in the future, like, healing will generate aggro. Like, for example, in Elder Scrolls Online, if you are healing, you generate massive aggro. It's
Which
like,
you should.
Yeah. But you will also have a skill that will remove your threat. And as the guy with the classic sword and shield, I will probably not be dealing as much damage, but I will have a skill that will be basically AoE taunt, as in adding myself some threat.
Right. But is that going to take away? So there's going to be that balance, right? Between I'm the tank, I want to tank the big one. And all of a sudden the healer starts healing everybody. Am I going to lose aggro because all of a sudden the healer gets all the aggro? And honestly, I think some of the IC bosses do that.
So
some of the IC bosses attack our healer more than anybody else.
Do you think this was a way for them to balance the 9 cooldowns that you have? Because now you're probably going to be burning through cooldowns to try and keep threat.
Well, I also think it's going to be take care of the backstab, right? So if you got the tank's got everybody, the tank's got the big guy, and you're stabbing him in the back, he's getting it all the time, right? So if the healer is not also standing behind the tank, all of a sudden he's going to turn around and chase the healer.
I like this. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how they figure all this out.
And I'm assuming that's mainly what they're working on about, during this test.
Oh, sorry. Can you say again, Sveen?
No, what I was saying was I'm sure that's probably what they're trying to gauge during this test, this alpha.
Yeah. I think so too. These are just configuration changes, but they're major configuration changes.
Oh yeah.
Right? These don't seem like I put a new engine in. Right? This seems like let's make some configuration tweaks but they made some big tweaks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And basically, how the game plays right now, I assume is completely different because
I think so too.
These are core changes to how the combat plays, how the how the enemies are going to be playing.
And by the fact that the configuration changes says to me how well they put this together.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, if they're doing this on the fly, like without additional development cost for a bunch of things, that's good.
Trouble.
That's good.
And since it's been a couple weeks, basically, they are using configuration. Mm-hmm. There's just no way you could code it and test it and ready to retest again to public.
I mean, honestly, the way this game was running, especially on the back end, was already that it had already given me a signal towards that this is a lot more well done in terms of development than a lot of the games out there. Like in North American servers in ESO, I get over 250 ping. In North American servers in New World, I am at like 170, which is almost my European ping in ESO. It's insane.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you were saying that. That's like crazy good ping.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm seeing a lot of Lumberyard licensing in the future once this comes out, if not already, from other game studios, right? Instead of licensing Unreal 5 or 4, they're going to license Lumberyard.
So for this test, we know they are only having NA and EU servers, right? So there was no talks of Oceanic or Asia Pacific or anything
not even
like that.
EU at the beginning. So let me just get
that's
there.
right.
So
that's right.
We will only have NA servers. EU servers will be added in the future, they say. Hey, maybe they are waiting for the EU servers to give me my key. How thoughtful of them.
You don't even play on EU anyway.
Yeah. As for licensing Lumberyard, it might not happen, mainly because it depends on their licensing model as well. Now, what Unreal Engine is free, right? You only pay royalty, and that's after you. I think with Unreal Engine 5, what they announced was like $1 million in revenue. Then you start paying a royalty of the value I don't remember. So it's Unreal Engine is a massively good deal for a lot of developers. Now, depends on how Lumberyard's licensing will be. Like if they want an upfront cost or if they have a higher royalty value than Unreal Engine or a lower threshold, that's going to affect as well. But another thing is Unreal Engine 5, if they deliver on the things they promised with having almost unlimited geometry and having real-time global illumination and, reflections and everything like that, if that actually works like it does in the demo, it's going to just...
but look at Unreal 4 and realizing it's not a complete rewrite, right? It's going to Unreal 5. It's not ground up. It's an update. Look at Ark, right? Not you, but look at Ark, right? And you'll notice the way things move only when you start to see them, right? Because until that time, it's remembering where everything is, what it should be doing, and what's happening, right? But it's not actually happening either in computer or in the database until you show up.
Yeah.
Right. That's how they got around to some of the size issues they have. One of the reasons Conan Exiles put a new map out, an entire new map, right? Not just a new portion, but a whole new map you can't play two at the same time, is because they had got to the limit of Unreal 4.
Oh.
Right. They're at the end of the limit, right? And Lumberyard, that's where it's going to be decided. Are you going to be able to have stuff that's running in the background and not affect the foreground, and it's still happening even if you're not there? That's going to be the question. It's like if you're not in the forest, does the bear really do it in the woods, right? It all depends on how it's going to be set up. The licensing, when I used Lumberyard for just as little as I did, wasn't that different than Unreal.
Okay.
But again, that was about a year ago. I haven't looked at it yet.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it lately. So it's going to be, it'll depend, right?
Yeah.
Especially with these MMOs and survival type games. I expect maybe it's just me, the world to be happening even when I'm not there, right? Because it's a survival game. It's an MMO, right? It should be moving. It should be changing even when I'm not there. With Unreal 4, you can't do that. So if they can deliver that with 5, maybe.
I mean,
how easy of an integration do you think it would be from 4 to 5?
That's a huge change.
Pretty easy.
That's a huge change. Yeah. You're going to see a lot of games not make the switch.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge change. It's we'll call it just an update, but it's a massive update. It might as well be a whole new engine.
But it's a good thing they're using Lumberyard.
Yeah, there you go.
Updating even within the same version, like even within Unity 4.22 to 4.23 can be disastrous depending on the changes. Like
depending what you do.
One moment everything is working, you update. Next moment you have several pages long of errors that you have to sit down and fix. Like it really depends. And Unreal Engine 4 to 5, the way they are changing, I assume with everything is they're doing, like they're changing the entire rendering pipeline, the way it's probably like unless they're early in the development, I doubt. Like for example, we won't see Ashes of Creation in Unreal Engine 5. I don't think so because they are too far in development
too early.
To make that change.
It's like the smarter you are at Unreal 4, the more you're going to make deep down changes to make it work the way you want to. The more deep down changes you make, the more you can't move to the next version.
Yeah.
Even a dot version, right? Because the idea of a framework or an engine is let the engine do its work. If you want to replace a part of the engine, replace an entire part, not just a little piece, because you're going to have to keep track of every little piece you change, or you're going to get stuck with all these code lines coming out when you try to run it. That's one of the things I've learned on business software and gaming software is if it's a framework, leave it be the framework. If you need to fix it, talk to the vendor to fix it, or you need a different framework to fix your problem. Because if you change it yourself, you've just tied yourself to that framework. And every time they make a change, you've tied yourself to cycles of change. I mean, the company before, they spent millions each year, because they wanted to do things a little differently because of competitive advantage, supposedly. Right? One day, this VP just walked in and said, no more changes. If you want changes for competitive advantage, I have to sign off on it or you don't get it. Period. Because they were just paying through the nose for these changes. And I went to the vendor one year and I said, okay, give me a list of all our changes to your software that you made. And they go, we don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Right. So this is a situation you're in. Yeah, it's like, come on, guys. So these engines, they're fantastic, but you got to replace them in pieces. Like when you replace a part on an engine, you're taking the timing wheel off, you're taking off the carburetor. That's how old I am, the carburetor, right? But you take apart a piece and you know what it is, you know where it goes. You don't, I'll take this bolt and turn it into plastic, right? I mean, it'll be lighter this way, right? I mean, it's just, come on. You're going to make yourself then, if something goes wrong and they replace the engine, you have to go in there and fix that one part again. But we do that over and over and over again in software because we don't, in training in college universities, we don't work with the developers and say, yeah, you're smart, but don't do that. Right? Do it this way, right? It'll help you in the long term if you do it this way. You may not look as smart as the guy who can run a line one code, but you're going to be smart because in the long run, you're going to be efficient because you're going to do it the right way. We just don't teach people that.
Yeah.
So the long story to the short question was, it's a heck of a change for a dot change, let alone 4 to 5.
Yeah. So... Lumberyard, cool stuff.
Thank you.
But it also, I guess, depends on how many tools they have created for Lumberyard during development of New World. Like, is Lumberyard going to become that engine that 5 people can come together to build an MMORPG because all the tools are pre-developed and they'll just have to piece
like
together.
Like our dev kit. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what happens.
So
I guess move on to what? Economy
and progression, yes. Also, we are over 10 p.m., so we'll, I guess, wrap it up. I don't know how much time you guys have. As I said, I just
we'll
woke
finish
up,
this last one. Then we're good.
Yeah, we'll finish this up.
So economy progression changes. Progression, reduce the speed of leveling and increase the relative value of questing experience. Reduce the XP players get from corrupted breaches, killing creatures. Reduce the weapon mastery experience required to level up weapons by 25%, so that's good, to compensate for the level experience from killing creatures. Reduce delivery missions experience and rewards. I really hope they made the quests better now that quests give more experience and you get less experience from everything else. I really don't want to be stuck doing those quests.
I'm fine with that. As long as the quests actually have somewhat of a plot to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what they were missing. They had a great plot to begin with, right? The captain and all that, and then it sort of just died away.
Yeah.
Right?
That was go here, kill 5 wolves.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
please.
plot. I
5
think you're
wolves
absolutely right.
and 3 boxes. Please.
Sorry, you're right.
There's variety there.
I'm sure some missions, right? You don't need that lore or, to go and was it the town hall missions where you have to go kill 5 wolves? That's fine.
Yep. Or 20 turkeys. And there's only 20 turkeys in the game. Right? So
man, poor
everybody's
turkeys.
fighting over the same 20 turkeys.
That's the most thing I saw in chat. Where are turkeys? Where do I find
one
turkeys?
Box that Arkhaniir could not find.
Which one?
It was the one in the
no, not
outside
the boss.
The one main town. The box.
Oh, the box, yeah. And the diseased corn. The freaking diseased corn that I never could have found because apparently it was always harvested, so I never saw it and I never got the prompt to harvest it because it was always harvested.
It was easy to find, Ark, because there's usually like 5 people just standing right there.
See, that's why, because when I was playing, I was a North American server, but I was playing while everybody was either asleep or at work because of my time zone difference. So there weren't that many people around. It's just that someone always, I guess, swooped in and grabbed it while I was searching for it. All right, attribute changes. Increase the attribute pool to add a meaningful amount to gear and introduce diminishing returns to increase build variety. Increase the amount of attribute points you get from leveling. Added attribute points to gear. Nice. Adjusted focus attribute to be the primary scaler for life staff. It no longer affects cooldown rate. There's a note here. Our long-term goal is to have focus to be attribute for healers/support, while intelligence becomes the attribute for damage dealers/mages. Gems no longer give you attributes, but instead provide elemental damage for weapons and family banes for armor. I don't know what family banes is.
I don't know.
There's also good question.
Diminishing returns were added to all attributes. So I like that the more build variety there is, the more I enjoy it. And I think a lot of people will probably disagree with this, but the more build variety there is, the easier it is going to be to balance. Because the more builds there are, the chances of a single meta build rising will also get lower because there will be more builds to just counter what that's doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is why, like, look at Ashes of Creation. Ashes of Creation, you are going to be able to come up with like 64, if I remember correctly, build and class combinations with the correct archetypes and subclasses and things like that. A lot of people think, how are you going to balance 64 classes? Well, when you have that many builds, you don't have to balance most of the time, in my opinion, because there's just so many variety that player base balances itself out by creating counters to what you have and things like that. So I think it's a good change. Like,
I agree.
If hatchets become meta, for example, I can just create a build and like getting attribute points based on that, or basically just go for something that doesn't get affected by hatchets because the game allows it at that point. Is at least what I'm thinking. But again, testing. So we need
That's it.
We can help. if you send us a key.
We can. It's Keith. You forgot mine.
Yeah. It's under the desk.
Yeah, really? It's over there. Too much dust. Can't see it. Send another.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Amazon. Just break into my house, log into my account, and do the thing. Like, at this point, it's...
Nobody's going to press charges against you, Jeff.
We're good.
Gear and rewards. Gear changes, adjusted level requirements, and rarity mapping for gear in preparation for a strong end-game gear chase. I like that objective. That's a good game life prolonging objective. Gear now has a specific level requirement. Previously, all gear from a tier was available at a single level threshold. Finally, no just level 1, 20, 40, 60 gear. They will have 1, 3, 2, 5, whatever.
Yeah, actual tiers of it. It needed that.
The level requirement of a piece of gear is based on its grade score. Higher rarity gear has a lower level requirement than lower rarity gear with the same gear score. So, like, you can, say, sword with a 250 gear score, its level requirement will be 10 if it's, for example, blue. But if it's, say, just white, it's gonna require level 13, 15, whatever the actual numbers are. I like that as well. I mean, the higher rarity it is, the more powerful you become at lower levels. So go grind.
That's pretty cool. They're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even think of them doing something like that.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting
the other way around, right? Right. So the more powerful it is, the more powerful you need to be to wield that weapon. That's what I would have thought.
Well, I mean, I guess it how rarity works in every other game. It's just this one, because of the gear score thing, it was worded differently. Mm-hmm. Like, the higher rarity it is, the more powerful it is at the same level is how you would word it in a normal thing. But
right,
they had to go and write this sentence instead. Rarity mapping changed so that legendary gear can now be crafted and dropped from the world. I don't know what that affects, and
I'm not quite sure what that means. Except I know what crafted means, but drop from the world.
Like, wasn't it dropping from the, or did we? I mean, I never got a legendary gear in the game while I was playing the preview event, so I guess it wasn't dropping, or I was just.
I did.
Oh, really?
I got a legendary bow.
So
did it drop from your inventory? Like, maybe is that what they're referencing?
No, well, it might be because it was from one of the kills I got. I mean, one of the chests. It was there.
I don't know. I mean, they changed something that legendary gear is now, I don't know, crafted and be dropped.
Yeah, crafted is cool. I mean, that means if the crafters have the ability to create, some of the best gear out there.
Mm-hmm. Which is how it's supposed to be, especially in a game like New World, where the crafting doesn't ever stop, like the leveling doesn't ever stop. So you need that super high gear, so it makes sense to just focus on crafting rather than dealing damage or being in the combat like everybody else. Like,
there's a purpose for crafting, right? I mean, that's and you can make some serious money with it.
Yeah, it took ESO ages to make crafters super viable, and that only happened after housing because all the furniture and stuff costs millions of gold. Like, but until then, it wasn't all that difficult to do. You could just level a crafting character, research the traits, which is the only problem. It takes time. Like, that's the only thing.
Yeah, you can still do it yourself.
Yeah. Gear perks. 16 new perks added to the game. 9 perks that will reduce the weight of specific classes of items. For example, Gorman's Burden will reduce weights of raw and cooked food. 7 perks that will affect threat generation. And 3 rings to the elves under the sky, apparently. So 7 perks that will affect threat generation. Remember how we were talking about how healers was gonna keep their threat level low and things like that? They will just have to come up with a build with the gear that keeps their threat levels low.
That lowers their threat. Yeah.
And as a tank, I will just be wearing armor that has I will mess you up written all over it. So it's with a Sharpie, you know.
Hit me.
Yeah, exactly. Hit me. I'm super dreadful. I'm danger. So
your mama. No.
Well, that brings us to the end of the release notes and the end of the show, actually.
And we're still waiting for the keys. Come on.
Yes. Yeah, like, let me check my email.
I thought we would have had them by now.
During this, even though we are doing this offline, I expect Amazon to know that we were recording this, and I don't have a key. What is happening here?
See? I'm telling you. They're slipping.
Get your surveillance game going, Amazon. Come on. Break into my house.
I've got a couple fire cubes in the house. You should hear this by now. Come on.
Well, that brings us to the end of the show. We are already a little bit over time, so I'm gonna let my co-hosts, who actually have a normal sleep schedule and everything, go on about their evenings. Before that, though, since I skipped it at the beginning of the show, gotta give a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters. That is the champion tier, not gear. Solus Gaming, Starfalling Games, and Zymergy, all of our highest tier Patreon supporters, and John Darden, Knight of DCN. Thank you all so very much for your continued support. It allows us to continue what we do here, the way we do it, and get better at it. All right, Sivian, final thoughts and where people can find you.
You can find me at the Dungeon Crawler Network, one of the council members. I'd love to have you join there. We'll have a link down below. And I do stream from time to time at Sivian21 at Twitch TV.
Wait, you started streaming? How did I not know?
I did.
You gotta announce these things so I can add you to all the hostlets and everything like that.
I'm announcing it now.
All right, there you go, people. Twitch.tv/Sivian21. What about you, Storms?
Well, Stormzlord, you can find me at DCN in the Discord, and eventually you'll be able to find me on more videos, either woodworking or game technology related.
There you go, with all the gear standing right behind him as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, you can follow me anywhere that is Arkhaniir, ARKHANIIR. It's a made-up name, so if you see it, it should be me, unless I have a copycat. And you can follow everything we do over at dungeoncrawlernetwork.com. There you can find links to all of our social media, including Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and Discord. We have all those links. Be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/dungeoncrawlernetwork if you want to help support the show. And if you listen to us on iTunes, you can leave us a 5-star review so people know that we are a real podcast, that we say real words, and sometimes it matters. Thank you all so very much for joining on this episode of the New World Compendium, and we will see you all again when we have more news to discuss. Have a good night.